Sorry, I just set up the camera because I need to record myself talking about myself, and then I'll edit myself and then put it on YouTube so I can watch myself again. So, Gabe, your job, make sure I keep the mic on, because there's nothing more annoying than like when you do this and I forget, because I'll get sidetracked. So you just do like a hand wave at me. So I know some of you in the room. I've met some of you today. I've probably come across some of you at SEMA or other places, but many of you I haven't met. And so I want to take a few minutes just kind of telling a little bit about what Obsessed Garage is, what it's become, and hopefully by the end of this give you an idea where I think it's headed. But Eric asked me to talk a little bit about what finding your lane means. And when he asked me to do that, it made more sense to me to talk about, if you're lucky enough to find it, how do you stay in it? So how do you stay in your lane? I find that to be much, much harder than it is finding your lane, if you're so fortunate enough for that to happen to you. So that's what I'm hoping we'll answer here today. So Obsessed Garage started for me in 2014. Believe it or not, I set up a video camera because I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, and I couldn't function. I couldn't drive. I couldn't go to work. I was a wealth management professional. I couldn't eat. All I could do was like go out and run. And so it was through lots of therapy and me trying to figure out how to fix it, we came to the conclusion I need to make some friends. Now, I think the therapist that I met with, I think he meant like go meet your neighbor, or like, find a couple of people to hang out with. Well, I took it as, what's the most efficient way that I could meet the most people possible? And so I built a spreadsheet and then sat down and analyzed it again, started to head down the same path that got me in trouble in the first place, and ended up started to make a journal sharing my cars on Renlist, which is the Porsche forum, and M3 Post, which is the BMW forum, Bimmer Post. And I quickly, after starting those, started making videos on YouTube where I'd set a camera up like this one here, and I'd just start talking to it. And there was no agenda, there was no script, there was, a lot of times it was out of focus, there was no, I didn't have a mic to start, so you couldn't hear me half the time, but I would talk about process, what I was doing to wash my car and why, or why I was polishing something a certain way. Or where I learned about it, but I was also talking about life, and my business and what I did on a day-to-day basis in between, because I had to fill in the gaps. When you're washing a car, there's a lot of gaps. And so the Obsessed Garage was born out of me sharing my life on YouTube, and then I eventually figured out that people wanted to know the products that I was using and why. And so people really started to scream loudly in the videos with a lot of comments. One, they told me it was too long. But remember, I wasn't making the videos for them. I was making it for me. So there was no agenda. They were telling me that I need to put links. What products are you using and why? And I was surprised that anybody cared. Especially a lot of young detailing professionals. A lot of people would be asking me, why are you using? I'm like, I'm a wealth management goof, just washing my car in my garage. But I quickly came to realize that a lot of people just wanted to know what to use, and they wanted to trust somebody, and they wanted to understand why I was using the product, but they wanted to know where to buy it. And what I eventually learned was there's a lot of products that are hard to buy, especially like the Cox hose reels over there that I've discovered over the years, or Prevost piping, or Jenny air compressors, and or even things like flooring and lighting, and a lot of this stuff is difficult to figure out how to buy. Well, my happy place is sitting at my computer with my computer on my lap, 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. sometimes, doing research, basically professionally shopping for things. And so I quickly decided, after finally listening to people, it was 2017, I started to offer a Krensla pressure washer. And it took me about 6 months to convince them to let me sell it. Rob's in the room somewhere here. It took me about 5 months to convince MTM to let me buy some foam cannons and let me buy some quick disconnects. But I thought I could I thought I could teach people a better way to buy it. I thought I could teach people what quick disconnects you needed in order to make a short gun and to be able to make it more efficient to wash your car, so you're not putting a foam cannon 36 inches away from the end of the gun. And so I launched it. I built ObsessGarage.com, and that first month in January of 2017, I bought 15 pressure washers, 15 sets of guns, quick disconnects, and foam cannons. And I think I sold, it was like $47,000 or something like that first month. And from there, the store has continued to grow. And so what I tell people I do is I curate products from all over the world. I love G-Technic Crystal Serum Light. That's part of the reason why I'm here. So I curate products from all over the world and build a process and basically teach people what to buy. And so what all of this has turned into, so I eventually had to leave my wealth management business. I'll talk about that in a little bit here. But it's turned into me figuring out what's my lane, right? What's my passion? What am I meant to do? So I spent most of my life getting up in the morning doing something that I thought I had to do, and now I get to get up every day and do things that I want to do. I want to be here. I want to learn from Ram at Color Lock, and I want to learn from Rob at G-Technic, and I'm begging him to bring the chemist over so I can sit down with him and ask him how it's made. And so that's my passion. That's what I want to share, and that's what I want to do every day. And so I think finding your lane has to do with how do you figure out how to take your gift set, or in my case, obsessive compulsive disorder was the opposite of that. There are some real positives of being obsessive and compulsive. And let me clarify that when you suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder, it's not that you're clean and organized. Everybody says, I'm so OCD. It's very, very different than that. I mean, if you look at the definition, being compulsive means that something resulting from or relating to an irresistible urge, especially one that's against one's conscious wishes. So I suffer from this constant obsessiveness where I can't shut it off. And so I wanted to try to figure out how could I turn that negative. In fact, I was forced to in 2014 to figure out how to make that a contribution. So what I'm going to talk about here, tell a little bit about my background and my story, and then hopefully talk a little bit about competition, because I know a lot of you guys have to deal with local competition, maybe somebody right down the street or in the same complex as you. So I'm hoping to talk a little bit about that here today and help you figure out what your lane is, what's your passion. Because you have such an advantage when you're chasing passion like I am. So for me to work 16 hours a day, if I love doing what I'm doing, I'm always going to beat somebody that may be in competition with me because if they work 16 hours a day, it's a lot more taxing on them, if that makes sense. So I want to start by talking about something that's really changed my life, and I see this so often with what you guys do in detailing, is something I learned from a coach of mine about honoring the source. And I very rarely see detailers, especially even some of the high level pros that I've gone around and learned from, of where did you learn that? Did you create it? Did you make it up? And so what you're going to hear from me today, a lot of the little phrases and things I've stolen from other people. And so honoring the source is one of the things that's really changed my life. And so the phrases that I'm going to use, a lot of them are from my coach, talking about an equal exchange in value, honoring the source. There's no such thing as helping. You shouldn't help people. They don't want to be helped. Things like that I've stolen from others. And so I'd encourage you to, honor who you learned to use a rotary from. Honor who taught you about coatings for the first time. And don't be afraid. One of the things that I think that's really contributed to my success has been just owning up to what I didn't create. I didn't create anything. In fact, I'm just selling products that other people have made. And so I'd encourage you to do that. So a lot of these things here, don't get me wrong, I didn't come up with this stuff. So let me give you a little context, a little background here on how I've figured out what my lane is, which is curating products from all over the world and then teaching people how to buy it. That's what I think I'm meant to do. So now, it took me 38 and a half years to figure this out, and then another year or so of not believing that it was working. Obsessed Garage, just to add a little context, I sold about $8.5 million last year of my favorite stuff in the world. So I wake up every morning and I get to play with, like, I have shelves lined with Gtechniq products and shelves lined with hoses and things that regular people don't give a crap about. I bet you a lot of us in this room do like. But I get to play with that every day, and so I'm 40 years old. I just turned 40 last month. And so for 39 and a half years of my life, I didn't know what my lane was. And so if we go back, I think there's been glimpses in my life of passion, and being and doing and chasing what I loved. But aren't we all taught? I think we're all taught to not chase what you're great at, but to just do what you got to do to pay the bills, to get the job done. And so when I was a kid, remember Matchbox cars? I may have told this story in a couple of years ago here, but when I was 4 or 5 years old, I liked Matchbox cars because I thought they were superior. They were superior engineering over Hot Wheels. I thought this as a 5-year-old. I should have known there was something wrong with me back then. But I was obsessed with, of course I'm right, I wouldn't mention if I wasn't. So I was so obsessed with the concept of which car was going to be my favorite car that day. And so my idea of playing with them would be to get them out, distill it down to the top 12, and then the top 6, and the top 4, and the top 2, and then which one was going to go on. I had one of these little mats that you lay on the floor. Which one was going to go in the garage on my little mat. And so I was obsessed with the idea of choosing a car that day. But I was passionate about those cars, even at 4 or 5 years old. And then I played volleyball in college. But in high school, I was so passionate that the reason I played volleyball is because I didn't grow until I was about 17, so I had to pick a girl sport because anybody can make the volleyball team, especially if you're a male, because of Title IX in college. But I didn't start playing until I was 17, and I showed up, and I think I probably played 6 or 7 hours a day. And it wasn't because I was trying to beat anybody. I wasn't in competition with anybody. I just wanted to be, I loved it. I was passionate about it. I wanted to chase it. And so it was a lane of mine that I chose. I went to Villanova. I got a degree in engineering. I figured out eventually the reason why I chose engineering was because I really liked electronics. But the reason everybody was telling me to be an engineer was because you can make more money, you can get a good job, right? So instead of chasing passion and I wanted to go work for Yamaha in Japan and make receivers, I thought that would be really cool. And the problem was I wasn't smart enough to do that. But I eventually figured out, again, little glimpses of finding out what my lane is. I eventually got a job in college selling high-end home theater. And learned how to sell and loved the product. I loved tinkering with it. I loved learning about it. I loved chasing and reading manuals and learning about what's the slew rate of an amplifier, so I could impart that knowledge on other people. And one of the biggest mistakes I made was a passion of mine. But remember, I had to find a real job, right? Everybody's telling me you got to get a real job. I went to Villanova. I paid all this money. I got a degree, and all I'm doing is selling stuff that I love. That doesn't count, right? You can't do that. And so I left that to go work for a big wealth management firm, Merrill Lynch. And I liked the idea that I could do that. I didn't know this was happening, but I liked the idea of doing that because you can make a lot of money, right? And so I had to get a real job, and I have said that to everybody. I have to get a real job. I have to get a real job. You can't chase passion. So I left my lane. I got out of my lane, and I headed down somebody else's path, somebody else's lane. And I was good at it. I made a lot of money. It's part of the reason why I was able to buy so many detailing things and so many car-related stuff and garage-related stuff, that I can now use that information and use that knowledge to create a contribution, hopefully, to the world. But I left my lane and I chased money. I chased the real job, or what everybody told me I was supposed to do. And again, it worked out. But boy, I can't imagine where I would have been if I would have stayed and chased passion, continued to chase that. So one thing I want to make a distinction on is part of the reason I left my passion of home theater and selling electronics was because I wanted to help people. Right, so we're told, you hear that all the time. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you detailing someone's car? Why are you spending 16 hours on the paint? And a lot of people would say, well, it's because I want to help others. And one of the things my coach set me straight on a few years ago was that no one really wants to be helped. They'll ask you if they want helped. What they want is they want you to be passionate. They want you to really love what you're doing. They want you to be in your lane, right? They want you to do what you love, because if you do what you love, you'll do a better job than what anybody else would. So I found my lane in 2014 by accident. It was a rough patch. It wasn't fun. It wasn't something that I would ask or put on anyone. But I found my lane, and I fought it, and I fought it hard. I was making a lot of money, and I didn't want to give that up. And so, luckily for me, the universe stepped in and made it happen. So, and I was making videos sharing my life. What I was attempting to do was take my passion for detailing and washing cars and playing with garage stuff, and I was trying to figure out how to convince people to let me manage their money that were into the same thing. And so I was attempting to kind of connect the two, passion and my job, because I didn't want to lose the money. I didn't want to lose the real job. I didn't want to lose that. And so I pushed the boundaries to the point to where I was making a crap ton of money, had a lot of responsibility. I had all the titles. I was a senior resident director, senior vice president. I was a certified financial planner and 37 other letters behind my name. And I was doing that because I wanted to show how important and how great I was. And I didn't want anybody to find out that my real passion was washing cars in my driveway. I didn't want anybody to know that. I didn't want my clients to know that I had done really well and I had a 911. I didn't want anybody to know who I really was. The problem is that every single person that hired me to manage their money knew exactly who I was. And so the universe stepped in, and I'm so fortunate that this happened, because now I was forced to do nothing but stay in my lane, chase my passion. So today, I'd mention, I don't mention the numbers of stuff that we sold to brag. I just try to add a little context. Black Friday weekend, we sold $750,000 worth of stuff, and doing so, it doesn't feel like I should be allowed to do that. It doesn't feel like the work that I've done justifies that, because I love doing what I'm doing. I would do it for free. And so if you can figure out how to do figure out how to turn either your affliction into a contribution, like I've lucked into, or if you can figure out how to make it to where, if you guys are polishing a car, I hope it's because you love it, and you're not doing it just for the money. And I'd encourage you, now Eric's cringing over, he doesn't want everybody walking out saying, all right, I'm done with detailing after this. But I'd encourage you to figure out what makes you happy and what you're passionate about, and you'll find that if you're working 16 hours a day doing it, it won't feel like it. And so fast forward, Obsessed Garage is doing great. I left my career behind. I make more money than I was making before. I've got this great staff. I've got 15 employees that are all hand selected and building this culture inside the organization. But now the bigger problem, remember I told you in the beginning that staying in your lane or finding your lane was easier than staying in your lane? And so now imagine, I'm public with my life. I went from introversion and doing it all on my own to now sharing it with everybody. And so everybody's telling me I'm fat, I'm stupid, I'm bald, I'm an idiot, you don't know what you're doing. In the very beginning, 3/4 of you that were pros were like, what is this goof doing on YouTube? He doesn't know how to polish, he doesn't know what he's doing. And so it's really hard to stay in that lane when you find it, especially when you're public like I've been. And I bet you guys, let's say you're the most passionate detailer in the room, and yet you have somebody next door to you, or maybe a block down the road, telling all of your clients how they can do it better and how much you suck, and you can find yourself getting into competition. So what if what if there was no competition? What if there was no one competing with you, and they're just other people that do what you do? Just doing the same thing that you do. And now I have competition, and then I have other YouTubers doing the same thing. And it's frustrating when somebody makes a video 2 weeks after you made a video. And so I have the same issues you guys have, where somebody's competing with you every day. They're marking their services down. They're cutting you down. And you can get, the best of us get wound up in that. You can get caught up in that. And so, for me, another problem has been pushback from even selling all the stuff. I have to beg companies to let me sell stuff. Many companies won't even let me offer their stuff. And so I find myself at times wanting to get out of my lane. And sometimes it can be lucrative. Like, let's say, my friend Billy, who's a fantastic detailer, I asked him many times, when are you going to get into PPF? I'm sure everybody's telling you that. When are you going to start doing PPF? You get out of your lane because you're chasing the money. But what if you're not passionate about that? What if it's not what you love? And so when you get into, I find that when I get into competition mode for me, I thought that, why don't I build a detailing company? I'm selling all these detailing supplies. Why don't I build a company? But it's not what I'm passionate about. I'm not passionate about what many of you guys do. What if I should probably sell every soap? I sell one soap, which is the soap that I like the most. And so I start thinking, well, man, this other Auto Geek or Detailer's Domain or Detailed Image, man, they're really doing great. Maybe I should leave my lane and go sell what they sell, because then maybe I can try to compete with them. Again, getting into competition, getting out of your lane, I think is a big mistake. So I feel like the only way to combat competing is to avoid opinions. Right? Bear with me here, but what if I told you you should never have a judgment, you should never have an assessment, you should never have an opinion about anything, ever? Because you become attached to that. You become attached to that, and then you find yourself competing with everybody on the block, every other detailer. It's good to see all of you guys kind of sharing ideas, and part of that is probably because you're all over the country. But I'm sure that each one of us are thinking about one person that's down the block that you're in competition with, that is doing something to compete with you. What if you dropped your opinion about them? What if you just focused on the experience you have with the products that you love and the process that you're passionate about? How could anyone fault you for that, right? That's what's happened for me, is I just stand up and self-deprecate. Hey, I have obsessive-compulsive disorder. I suck at many things. I don't have aspirations to be a professional detailer, and yet I want to be with you guys. I want to be in professional detailing. I want to play with the same products you're playing with. I want to use scan grip lights and G-Technic coatings and things like that. I want to use, in fact, I'm yelling at Eric all the time and Rob about I want CSU. And they're saying, you can't have it because you're a hack. And I say, I want it anyway. So I've actually been accredited, but technically I don't qualify because I don't do anybody else's car. But what if you didn't have to compete? What if you could just stay in your lane and love doing what you're doing, work 16 hours a day, and it won't feel like you've worked a minute? I would say that, the idea that there's no such thing as competition might make you focus on your lane. Then you can focus on creating content around what you love, and then no one can fault you for that. Then your competition can't argue against that, can't argue against your service, or can't argue against what you're providing. And so one of the things that competition can lead to, and these are a lot of buzzwords that my coach talks about all the time, is an agenda. And so I'm talking about passion, right? Passion. I'm passionate about selling the stuff that I sell and providing people with information about the things that I'm excited about, like garage flooring. If I choose a certain type of flooring or a certain type of light, if I focus on that rather than what everybody else is selling those lights for and what everybody's saying about it, because I'm public, so everybody's telling me my lights suck. And oh, by the way, you're fat and bald and stupid. So that always comes with it. But what if I focus on how much I love the light and how passionate I am about it and developing new lights, then I can't hear all of that noise. And so if you show up leading with an agenda, that's all you'll hear because you're chasing a result of money. So think about this. So I started making videos because I had to, as therapy, or I decided to. And so I made videos without an agenda. And then I started taking photos and sharing on car forums without an agenda, like I wasn't trying to get anything out of it other than maybe make a few friends. And then I put some products up because I thought, maybe some people might want a one-click solution, and maybe that could become a cool little side hustle. But I didn't do it. There was no agenda of how much money I could make. And then I started making some T-shirts and stuff because I thought that would be pretty cool. And then I eventually left my career behind and chased this dream of being able to play in my garage all day. But at no point was there, well, if I could procure Crystal Serum Light at $60 and I could buy it at $32, I can make $28, and then now how can I go sell it? See the difference there? So I sell Crystal Serum Light, and I sell a lot of it, but it's a result of all of this, passion. I love this, I love that, I love this. Let me show you this, let me share with you that. And then the result might be a sale, might be some money. So in your case, what if you shared how much you love whatever service you're providing, and then the money comes rather than the money being the thing in up front. So I found that when I was in wealth management, I would sit around all day trying to figure out, okay, I want to make $100,000. So I'd set that first. And then I would say, okay, how many clients do I need to get in order to make $100,000? Okay, I need to bring in $10 million of people's money, and I need to charge them 1% on that money. And then that would get me $100,000 because I want the $100,000. And then, well, what would I need to do in order to convince those people? Well, let me go get educated. So let me go learn more about trading stocks and getting designations and making myself look really sharp. So let me get some nice shoes. I bought an Omega watch. I had a fancy suit on because, I don't want them to know who I was. I didn't want them to know that I was just a kid from the trailer park. I didn't want them to know that. And then I had the whole deal. I had the spiel. Then let me create an elevator pitch. Let me figure out a way to convince people that I'm really smart, and then maybe I'll get kind of interested in it because I have to in order to wake up in the morning. So I led with the money. I led with the result. Right? So I was chasing that $100,000, and I tried to back into it with all of these other things instead of chasing it with passion. Right? So. With me, I love, it's ridiculous, but I love that Cox hose reel back there. It's like the coolest thing in the world. It has easy coil retraction. And I love the fact that I met with the engineer and how he created it. And then I love the fact that it's a 50-foot power cord. And then the one that's has a hose reel on it, or has a hose on it, like I took a hose from France and then put it in this American hose reel, and then I found this coupler for the end of it. And so I'm thinking about, man, this is really cool. I'd really like to have this on my wall. And then, well, how much does this thing cost? Right? So okay, it's like $505 or something like that. And then, well, maybe I can call and develop a relationship with Cox and see if maybe they let me sell it. I bought one, and maybe I can see if they'll let me sell it. But first, let me make a bunch of videos. I want to share this with everybody else. Man, this is so cool. I love this thing. I want to share it with, I want to call Billy up and tell Billy, dude, you got to get one of these hose reels. This thing's awesome. And then I'll make a video, and then 10,000 people or 15,000 people watch it, and I get to sound real smart and look real cool. And then, well, I love cameras, so now I buy a bunch of cameras so I can take photos and make it look really cool. And then, well, Cox said yes, so they said, yeah, I can sell it. Well, maybe I should figure out how much can I buy this for? So what's my cost? Okay, the cost is like $400, so I can make $105. Okay, what's my margin on that? And then, let's get it up in the store and let everybody know, and then let's just see what happens. And because I'm animated, I love this thing. I made videos, I'm sharing with everybody, I'm talking about this stupid hose reel that nobody else cares about. But they see that I'm excited about it, and if I'm lucky, I'll reach the people that want to buy it. And because I was so passionate about it, I'll make $100,000 selling hose reels because I chased it from passion and from without an agenda, and the result is the money, right? So if I can provide any advice of anything that I've learned over the last 5 years of going from crazy to hopefully now somewhat successful, is that the money should be the result. So if you figure out what your lane is, figure out what your passion is, figure out how to make it a contribution. That contribution has value. And then figure out how to create an equal exchange of value. That hose reel is $505. My value proposition is I'm going to teach you all about it so you can make an educated decision, because $505 is ridiculous for a hose reel. And so what I'm hoping to do is provide an exchange in value, and that you eventually buy it from me because you're honoring the source of the information. And so the value exchange then leads to a relationship instead of a transaction. Many of you know this. Your best customers, you probably have their cell phone number. You're talking to them on a regular basis. They a lot of times become friends. You have a relationship. It's very different than a transaction where you say, okay, I want to make $2,000 on a full correction and coating, and so then I need to run some Google ads, and then I need to tell everybody about it. I need to post some flyers, and so remember backing into it. So rather than chasing the money and having an agenda, one way to stay in your lane is to just stay focused on what you love. Stay focused on what you're into. If you're not into installing PPF, don't go there. If you like installing PPF but don't like coding, don't go there. Stay in your lane. Figure out what you love and what you're passionate about, and the money, the numbers, all of the success, all of the things you could ever dream of, I think come from it. You're no longer in competition with anybody. Here's an example for me. I talked a little bit about the Cox hose reels. Eric asked me to talk about this one, but I bought, at one point, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I bought 27 buckets. I wanted buckets, like 2-bucket method. Some of you are scoffing. Why would you use 2 buckets? You should use 1, but I'm not here to debate that. But I bought 27 buckets. I bought 6-gallon, 7-gallon, 3-gallon, 5-gallon. Somebody makes a 4-gallon. I bought some black ones. I bought some gray ones. I bought some white ones. Bought them from U.S. Plastics. I bought them from Uline. Bought them from every place I could find online. And I had them all come to my house. And I kind of laid them out on my floor. And I was testing the tensile strength of them. Would I rather have a 70 mil or a 90 mil bucket? And I found that, the grays and the blacks are kind of splotchy, so I don't like those. And then I was washing. I narrowed it down that, 6-gallon would be better, because I hate revisiting the hose bib once, like if I'm washing a Raptor or something, I don't want to go fill up and add more water. And so I determined, 7-gallon's probably better. But then the 7-gallon was a little unstable, and so I ended up on the 6-gallon bucket. And I'm like, it'd be really cool if I could put a lid on there. So then I ordered some Gamma Seals and then put a grit guard in there because we all know that's what you're supposed to do. And then I ordered the grit guard dollies, which are like $50 a piece. But the wheels were 2 inches and I didn't like how it rolled. And so I bought some 3-inch wheels and some 4-inch wheels. Well, 4-inch was a little too big, and so 3-inch was the way to go. And so that bucket package cost me like $3,700. And I'm not kidding you. But I didn't feel bad about it because I loved it so much. I was so excited about it. And so then maybe a year later, I decided, after I launched the pressure washer package, it was so successful. I'm like, maybe other people might want this, assuming it's not $3,700, but what would it cost? And so it was $345. And all of you guys are saying, $345 for there's 3 buckets of wheels, wheel, wash, and rinse. And so I made a YouTube video of it. And I said, well, I love this. I think it's great. It's real expensive, but I think some of you might like this. And I had no idea the backlash was going to come from that. Some of you probably were ones that say, get out of here, you idiot. $345 for buckets? They thought I was buying them for like $8 from Home Depot and selling them for $345. Well, no, it costs, to do the 3-inch casters and all these Gamma Seals and vinyl on it cost me about $200, and then shipping was another $50, and so I'm selling it, I'm making like $80, 30% margin or something like that. And so all I got was hate. I wanted to get out of my lane and exit immediately, but I stayed in it. I stayed in my lane. I stayed with passion. I did fight a bunch of people and told them they were fat and stupid too. But I think we sold like 600 or 700 sets of these buckets in the last year of people that really valued this idea, or they could just click it. A lot of stupid rich dudes like me, they just say, okay, Matt says it's good, it's good. And so staying, if I would have gotten out of my lane and said, you know what, everybody else is wrong. I mean, that guy told me my services are too expensive, and so I'm going to depart from it, and I'm going to go and do something else, and I'm going to just sell everything that everybody else is selling and do what everybody else is doing and offer the same service that everybody else is offering, and I'm just going to jump in and I'm going to compete. I think it'd be a big mistake. So I'll leave you with this. I think I could attribute all of this. I'm sharing with you some of the numbers. If you want to see my W-2, I'll show it to you. I don't care. I mean, money numbers mean nothing to me. I've shared, my neuroses. I've shared my shortcomings. I've admitted that I'm bald and fat. I've shared my life with the world, and the only thing I can attribute to selling any stupid $300 bucket package or $1,500 pressure washer or $500 hose reel is just being authentic, being me. And I've seen such a difference. 3 years ago when I was here, or 4 years ago when I went to SEMA, and detailers, I'd see them and they'd walk by me and just give me that look, that look, that competition, that death look. And I've been authentic through it. And I hope they aren't looking and smiling at me just to get rid of me. But I think that the authenticity and me just sharing it like it is, without an agenda, without competing with anybody, I think that that's what's worked. And it almost feels like I'm cheating a little bit. So imagine yourself, just for a moment, with a life where you get to do what you love. You can choose to do it as much as you want or as little as you want. And most importantly, you get to be who you are. So if I can encourage you to do one of anything, just do you. Remember that, whatever uniform or suit or Omega watch or whatever character you're portraying, the people that are hiring you or want to be in relationship with you, they already know who you are. So just do you, don't hide it. Anyway, thanks, guys. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks, Eric. I had a mini OCD freak out in the middle of that, too, if you guys noticed that.
If you guys noticed that.